Excel file. It's a very simple file to do. I'll put it in Blackboard in coursework. And I also want to go over the My Econ Lab. There's one tricky question. But this week we're looking at, again, the monopoly type of firm compared to a purely competitive firm. So it's going to be a little bit different graphically, but fairly easy. Of course, easy for me. But here's this file, this monopolistic firm. And again, you can see the difference already because I already have the graph in here for you. So no graphing this week. But here, this is my demand line here. Right? And notice demand is downward sloping because compared to a purely competitive firm, the monopolistic can determine their price. Right? So again, at a high price, not many people will buy it. At a lower price, more people would want to buy it. So the quantity goes up. It's a negatively sloping curve, right? Because if you remember from last week's, the people that did it, spreadsheet, here's where my marginal revenue line, the straight line going across here. Again, notice the marginal revenue here is this 300 going all the way down because, again, the industry sets the price. The individual firm is a price taker, so the marginal revenue equals price equals demand. It's the same line, where in the monopolistic firm, they get to determine their demand, and their marginal revenue will be different, as we will prove in Excel in a second. So, excuse me. So let's go back into this spreadsheet. It's an easy one to do. So again, I got my output here. So here's my change in output. Here's my, again, price going down. So I'm going to figure out my total revenue. Again, total revenue is simple one. It's the price times the output. So this first one in D3, I'm doing this, what, C3 times B3. So this should come out 0. No one wants to buy at this high price. Fun. And if I just throw it all the way down, there we'll see. And again, never hurts to just check your formulas down here. At quantity 4, you know, at $850, 4 would be the quantity demanded. So it's just double click here, and yeah, it's the 4 times the 850. I'm just going to escape out of here then. So marginal revenue. And again, here's where the marginal revenue will always be below the price line or the demand line. So again, marginal revenue is the change in total revenue for the change in output. So if I go from 0 to 1 output, what's the change in revenue? And you can see it's 1,000, right? So this is a simple formula. I'm going to take this 1,000, D4, minus the 0. Right. There's 1,000. And then for the next unit sold, right, next output, change in output is going to go from 1 to 2, and it's the change, the difference here should be 900, right? 1,000 and 1,900. So I'm just going to copy this one down, and yeah, it works perfectly. And I can just throw the whole thing down. So in the test, I'm going to ask you one question here. You know, what's the marginal revenue between 5 and 6? And if I look at 5 and 6 output, what's the marginal revenue? I'll have these two numbers here, and you can see it's the 500. Please don't miss that question. So here, again, the graph is already set to go. This red line now is the marginal revenue, and it is below the demand line. It always will be. It's a question on the My Econ Lab. It will be a question on the midterm. It's, again, different from the purely competitive firm where they're the same line. So here, but again, same thing. If I want to see my profit maximization output, you know, how much should I produce to maximize my profit? It's right there, right? Where MR equals MC. And this is at the output of 7 and the price of 400, but ignore that. Ignore that 400 because where MR equals MC, what's the price I'm charging? I have to go up and look at the demand line, and that's the price I'm going to charge. This is what again, I can charge on my price, my demand for this output. So we can check over here again where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. There it is, the 400 there. And again, this is at the output of 7, right? And then the price of 700. So this is the one little tricky difference here between a purely competitive firm and a monopolistic firm. You find MR equals MC. That's always the case. But then you got to go up above on that same, as I make a fool of myself in class, going up and down. There's the price I sell it for, 700. So again, if you look at the textbook for when I add all my other costs involved here, this is what, page 161, right? Take a look at this in the textbook. Again, when you get one of these questions on the test, right, boom, I look at that point A, right? That's where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. Right? I go up above and I see then the price I can sell it at, right? It's at 15 because this is that point B. And then this firm is doing too well, right? Of course, it's a monopoly. Because notice my total revenue is the 15 times the 900, which is a lot more than my total cost, which again, on the same up and down line, 8 is the cost times 100 times 900. So my profit here would be the difference between 15 times 900 minus 8 times 900. So take a look at this one. Again, I'll bring some examples in also next Tuesday about this, and we'll go over it in the beginning of class. All right, I want to take a quick look at my econ lab. There's a tricky question. It looks like this. And again, they try to be a little too tricky on this one. Let me work this problem. I already have it done. Work this problem as a student. So this is referring, let me go back to the textbook, to, it's on page 164, I believe. Yeah, there it is. It's comparing this, right? So here is the monopoly, right? Where you get again, the demand line going down, marginal revenue below, always that. Point A, this would be the selling point for a monopolist. And again, notice it's looking at the long run. So long run average cost equals long run marginal cost. Because in the long run, the average costs are a straight line. Remember, in the short run, there's a curve, a U-curve for average costs. And again, if you look at our classroom as a manufacturing zone, where I'm making scarves, if I put 50 people in there knitting scarves, again, my output would be fairly good, my cost kind of low. But if I put 200 people in that small room making scarves, then they're bumping into each other, and I'm not basically producing as many scarves because it's overcrowded, and my costs will go up because of the labor, more labor. In the long run, I could basically maybe expand to 3 other classrooms. And then my, again, long run cost would be flat on this one. So in the long run, your costs are flat. But again, I'll talk about this in class. But here in the perfect competition, again, this looks at the industry here. Again, the demand equals the long run costs, where basically in the long run, my total revenue equals my total costs. Right? So I make 0 economic profit. But for a monopolist, again, they can charge at point, again, where MR equals MC, A, and then basically charge B. So this is why we regulate monopolists, right? Because it would be better if they produced out here, right? Because then where's my cost equals my price. So they're making 0 economic profit. But monopolists can always, again, charge at point B if they're not regulated. And again, this is like water, right? Water is a monopoly. Most towns run their own water company because it'd be too expensive if we let the market take care of it. Again, private industries did it, it would be just way too expensive. So back at this question, again, I'll explain this better in class, or I'll explain it again in class. On this one here, again, it's comparing this monopoly and perfect competition. Which of the shaded regions shows the increased producer surplus from an existing monopoly? Where does the monopolist make their surplus? And again, there would be no surplus if it was out here in this point here, where basically the price then would equal the because this is really the long run cost curve too. This straight line, which is obviously a curve. So this part B here, because again, monopolists were marginal revenue equals marginal cost, which again, the tricky part here is this long run supply line is really the marginal cost. So point B is this surplus for where the monopolistic makes all their profits, right? Again, why we regulate monopolies. So I'm going to check my answer. Yeah, that's perfect. And then point A, again, some people would still pay for the higher price. That's what, this point A is. It's above, again, where the optimal price would be for the profits. And if I cut my prices more, then it would be below the marginal revenue would be greater than marginal cost. So you always want to produce at this point right here. But so A, these people are making, they would pay anyway. So this is a consumer surplus. This is the way I shop, right? I never check prices so much. So I get a consumer surplus for milk because I really don't care about the price of milk. But some people care about the price of milk. And then again, grocery stores can't overcharge for milk because a lot of people wouldn't buy the milk then. But generally, I just buy milk and I don't even think about the price. So I get a surplus on that for people keeping the prices low. So let me check my answer here. Yeah, beautiful. So this is the one tricky question again, and a lot of the homework questions in my econ lab and the quiz, talk about patents, but I think patents are fairly easy to understand. So look in the textbook about patents. Again, take the homework, print out the homework, check it with the textbook, and you should be fine. So email me if you have any questions.